Hey, everybody, it's Ryan. Thanks for downloading today's show. And just a reminder, as always, Wake Up War Chant is brought to you by our friends at For the Table, Madison Social, Central and Township, in the heart of College Town. Ladies and gentlemen, from Tallahassee to Thomasville and from coast to Atlantic coast, it's time to Wake Up War Chant here on 97.9 ESPN Radio, and it's a very happy Friday, September the 22nd, to you and yours. You're currently listening to the voice of Ryan Kelly. I'm the director of digital media at warchant.com. Drew Hicken is on the other side of the glass, pushing the buttons, sliding the sliders, making things work. You okay over there, bud?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. Happy Friday. Just close to game day. We're what? We have entered the 30-hour territory, 30 hours to kick off between Florida State and North Carolina State. More importantly, 30 hours away from the first football that Florida State will have played since September the 2nd. That's 21 days, 3 weeks exactly, to be precise. So it's just going to be good to be out there in the first football Doak Campbell Stadium scene since last November. So it's kind of strange to know that here you are, almost a month into the season. We haven't even been inside the walls of the house that Bobby built yet.
And I want to say that last year, I think it was they played 3 games within an 18-day span or something like that. So it's such a different turn of events, obviously, for this 2017 season. And I'm really interested, as well as everybody else, to see how this team is exactly going to react.
Anytime you play against the number one team in the country to start your season, then you lose your starting quarterback in said game for the year. Then you don't play for 2 weeks, and then you open up with a sleepy nooner and a conference game at home. Yeah, I'd say it's a different season, most definitely. Of course, Florida State's had to do a lot of learning on the fly with James Blackman at the helm, but we're going to get into all that in a minute. First of all, thanks so much for waking up with us here at 6 a.m. on 97.9 ESPN Radio, or streaming on your mobile device over the WTSM app or the TuneIn Radio app. Online as well at ESPNTallahassee.com. Of course, the podcast, iTunes, Podcast Republic, WarChantRadio.com, the TuneIn Radio app, YouTube, however it is. We thank you so much for listening to the show. And if you like the show, subscribe, give us 5 stars, give us a good review. Helps us out, helps you out, and it's a win-win situation. Radio@warchant.com. There's your email address for your comments, your questions, your concerns. They all go right there. And at Wake Up War Chant, your Twitter account to go to as well, if you like to keep your musings to 140 characters or less. Tonight, Madison Social, 5 to 7, Celebrity Bartenders. Your friends from War Chant, we're mostly going to be there. Going to be a good time. Nice place. Nice cause. Kids First Fund is going to get those tips from those celebrity bartenders. So make sure you're tipping well tonight. Come on out. Have a drink in the heart of College Town. Have a good time and support a worthy cause like the Kids First Fund. So as we were saying, Florida State's offense, James Blackman, he's the guy. You get to see him tomorrow. And our own Ryan Clark even ran a piece yesterday. What will FSU's offense look like around new quarterback James Blackman? And it's a question worth noting, and it's a question worth asking, especially because it's not often that Florida State's going to roll with a true freshman at quarterback under Jimbo Fisher, especially this early on in the year. The last time it's happened, it's been later on in the season or in very, very brief stints, but it hasn't been for the whole year. This is now ride or die with the kid from Belgrade. And it kind of spurs the question to me, does Florida State's offense have to look good in this game? Do they have to look coherent? Do they have to look together? Or do they just have to do enough to win? Of course, if you're a gambler and you see that spread that's literally bounced between 10 and 13 points, that may make you cringe. But as a Florida State fan, are you happy with just moving the ball effectively when you need to, scoring points when you need to, or do you need something to look pretty?
I don't think anything's going to look pretty, at least right off the bat. I don't expect this to be a pretty game offensively. I do think it's going to be, I'm going to pick Florida State to cover. But that being said, I don't think this is a game where the offense has to, do really, really well. I think they can still cover this spread by, just being mediocre, win a 24-10 type game. That's kind of what I more expect rather than for Florida State's offense to just light it up. I think that's an unrealistic expectation. I don't think anybody can really think that. I get we've heard a lot of really good things about James Blackman, and that's why we're all just tired of waiting for this game, because I just want to see the kid play at this point, because you want to know, are they just saying what they got to say about the kid? Is he really wowing everybody? What's the deal? Are we trying to instill confidence? I can't wait to see him play.
I can't either. I think we're just kind of at that point of exhaustion of talking about it, and we just really need to see it. Of course, first true freshman quarterback to start a game at Florida State since Chip Ferguson did it back in 1985. It's been that long. You have to, I guess, get in your time-traveling DeLorean and head on back that way. It's been a while, and now you're running a very, very complicated offense with a very, very green quarterback, and this is where your wide receivers come into play. All that hype that they had in the offseason, all the highly touted, this could be Florida State's best core since 13. This is where that's got to shine. This is where that's got to be proven, because as we talked about a couple days ago, North Carolina State's really good against the run. They are really good against the run. At the end of the year, teams eventually stopped running the ball against them last year. Even Dalvin Cook didn't have success in Raleigh last year against that team. Dalvin stinking Cook, and he was healthy, and he was ready to roll in that game. So if you got to beat him with your arm, you got to beat him with your arm, and that's where wide receivers have to help a new quarterback. It's an adjustment period for them as well. That ball comes out different. It's a different speed. It's a different release. Sometimes it's a different angle you have to judge for. But with all that learning curve being said, if you're those wide receivers, you're now the veterans of this squad. You have to pick the young guy up.
Yeah, I agree. I also think, though, I mentioned it a little earlier this week. I think tight end play is going to be huge, especially for a true freshman quarterback in his first start. A lot of times that's a good safety blanket for a young quarterback. Who's going to be the guy, whether it be tight ends or wide receivers, that steps up? And is James Blackman going to have a go-to wide receiver, or is he really going to spread the ball around? That's what I'm interested to see. Does he have more chemistry with one guy than others? And it's just going to be interesting to see. But me personally, I feel like the most important, other than the offensive line, I really think tight end play is going to be big for him going forward.
Yeah, and the only thing I'll say about that, the only thing that makes me worried about that is you have to call plays if you're Jimbo Fisher to actually get the tight end involved, because in many plays, I mean, the tight end is, so many reads down the line, and it's the idea that how comfortable is he going through progressions and going through reads?
Right. That's why I think it'll be so important to get Maven Saunders involved. If you can run a 2 tight end type set, I think that helps out a lot as well. So I fully expect that to happen. We heard Maven Saunders kind of got off to a slow start, but maybe he's been picking things up lately. Interested to see how he gets involved in the offense as well. I think that's something to watch.
Florida State defensively, if you're going to the home opener, I think that would have been the thing that many of folks would have wanted to see before, of course, the James Blackman thing happened. And it's the idea that this defense is really, really good. And there are some playmakers on the other side of the ball. Ryan Finley does not make mistakes with that football. That's one of the really, really good things about that North Carolina State team. It's one of the reasons that they hang in games with teams that are probably better than them. It's because you keep waiting for the other team to blink. When you're the better team, you keep waiting for, here's that turnover that's going to break their back. Here's that issue. And that rarely happens with them. If there is one thing you got to give the Wolfpack credit for, it's that. They don't make a lot of mistakes with the football. You have him, and you have Jalen Samuels, who just kind of goes out over the field. He's an everything guy. He's one freak of an athlete. But the good news for Florida State is, as big of a freak as he is, Florida State's got a bigger freak on the other end of the field. His name, of course, is Derwin James. He's going to be making his first start in Doak Campbell Stadium since September last year. It's been over a calendar year since he played a game at Doak Campbell Stadium. I'm really interested to see just how this defense keeps that momentum up after having a really good game against Alabama. And the guy that I'm very interested to see, it's not Derwin James, it's Matthew Thomas. And I'll tell you why. If Matthew Thomas looked as good as he did after 2 days of practice against the Alabama Crimson Tide, now that he's basically had what we've called the second fall camp, what does he look like with all that practice under his belt and being able to be with the team, staying in film, and looking at what this NC State offense has to offer?
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see. I do understand that Ryan Finley's a good quarterback, but I really just I don't see him I know for a fact this year he hasn't seen a defense like Florida State. I'm not sure if he ever has, as good as this defense is. I don't expect our defense to have a lot of trouble keeping them out of the end zone or from scoring points. Maybe they'll move the ball around a little bit, a busted play. That's kind of FSU's Achilles heel in defense. We all know that. I could see a busted play or two. But other than that, I mean, Jalen Samuels really is the guy that scares me more. He's in his 27th year at NC State. I swear the kid's been there for forever.
He does seem like I feel like every program has those one or two guys that just, you're still here? But yeah, he's certainly been there for a while. Talented, and, I hate to kind of almost mock Gene's matchup analysis and go piece by piece, but we've talked about offense. We've talked about defense, special teams. Special teams, because it's going to be a big deal whether it's a blowout or whether it's a close game, because if it's a close game, it might decide the game. And if it's a blowout, they're going to be the only starters that are still in this game, and they're going to be who everybody's got their eye on. Logan Tyler, can you look like a college punter for me, man? Can you do it? You seem like a nice kid. We hear great things about you in camp. We see you in practice, and it looks good. Can you go out on the field, and can you translate it? And Ricky, you got to break this Aguayo slump, man. I don't know what it's been, but since that blocked field goal at Georgia Tech, it hasn't been the same for him. And, of course, Ricky had that great game at Ole Miss against Ole Miss in Orlando a year ago, and after that, not much. There's got to be more consistency out of both of those guys, and there's also got to be more consistency out of your return game. Not only are people begging, like we begged all fall, to say, listen, Florida State needs to be more explosive in the returns. It's great to be explosive. It's also great to be smart. It's also great to realize, hey, this is a lost cause. I'm going to waive this. I'm going to take a knee. Does Florida State have this cleaned up? Because if not, I think the fire gets turned up on Jay Graham a lot.
Yeah, that's the thing that really makes you sick to your stomach when you think back to that Alabama game, because people can say whatever they want to say about that game. Florida State lost that football game in a 7-play stretch, pretty much all on special teams. And that's a tough pill to swallow, knowing that these are self-inflicted mistakes. Granted, like I've said before, that's just what Alabama does. But you let Alabama do what Alabama does, and that's why they won the football game. But anyways, I mean, talking about let's be honest, a nightmare scenario for Florida State fans is for this game to come down to special teams. I'm not really necessarily sure what kind of kicker they've got over there at NC State, but I do know that I don't have a ton of confidence in Ricky Aguayo, and I definitely don't have a ton of confidence in Logan Tyler. If this game comes down to you got to make a drive late to kick a game-winning field goal, or maybe you got to try to punt them deep, and so that their offense doesn't move the ball into field goal position. That to me, that's this being a one-score game that could be decided by special teams. That's a scary thought for me personally. Like I said, I just don't have a lot of faith in those guys, and until they prove me wrong, I'm gonna stay pretty steady on that.
Could you even imagine if this game came down to a field goal kick? Just yikes! If that game came down to a field goal kick, I think half our audience might have a conniption. Like, here's the thing. Here's the final thing I'll say about this game. Then I know we got to go to break because we recorded a long segment with Gene Williams a little bit earlier yesterday, of course, doing our picks and Lucky 7 and over-under. But take a look at the slate of games. Ohio State, UNLV, Kent State, Louisville. Poor Kent State got ran off the field by Clemson less than a month ago, and now they got to go play pissed-off Louisville. That doesn't sound like a fun job to me. Old Dominion, Virginia Tech, Alabama, Vandy, TCU, Oklahoma State's decent, USC, Cal's decent, Boston College, Clemson, Michigan. My point is, these games are terrible. This is a really bad slate of games. There's a reason College Game Day is in Times Square tomorrow and not at a campus, because these games stink. This is also usually a prime time for that weird weekend in college football where a lot of people go to the wire late with teams they shouldn't be in. Don't be in that chaos. This is usually one of those chaos-type weeks. I'm not saying it will be. I'm just saying if you read the tea leaves, this is often the type of week it is. Stay above that. You have no margin for error. Maybe you don't have to look great, but you do have to give some people hope because you got a road game next week, and then you got the Miami Hurricanes the week after that. Do enough to win, play smart, look good where you should look good, and let the experience pick up the youth that you now have on offense. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a good show for you today. As I mentioned, Gene Williams is going to join us here on the other end of this. Make some picks, play some over-under here on Wake Up War Chant, 97.9 ESPN Radio.
Yes, Florida State just landed a 5-star commitment.
I don't see that anywhere online. How did you get that news so fast?
I'm on the new warchant.com app. I get news updates and scores pushed to my phone instantly.
How much does it cost?
It's free. Just go to iTunes or the Google Play Store, type in Warchant, and install it on your phone. That's it.
A free app that keeps me constantly up to date on Florida State sports and recruiting? Wow, that makes it incredibly easy to follow my Seminoles and never miss out.
With the app, you'll also get quick access to all the stories and features on Warchant, including the ever-popular message boards that feature thousands of fans talking about the Noles.
Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole source.
Welcome back to Wake Up War Chant here on 97.9 ESPN Radio. Ryan Kelly and Drew Hicken here with you on a Friday. And the boss man joins us, the founder and administrator of warchant.com, Mr. Gene Williams. Gene, how are you, good sir?
Doing well, man. Looking forward to actual football this week. And even if it is a lowly nooner, but I'll take what I can get.
Listen, considering the slate of games this week, this is one of those weeks, I was telling Drew, this is one of those weeks that just has chaos written all over it. Because in college football, it's always the week that, gosh, do we really like this? This whole week is going to stink. That's always 2-3 upsets. So the fact that you have a sleepy nooner, maybe not the worst thing in the world.
So Vandy's beating Alabama is what you're saying?
No, that's not what I'm saying at all. But I am saying 19.5 is a little crazy for a defense that seems to be pretty good. I know it's not in our lucky 7, but that one kind of intrigues me a little bit. Yeah. So I will jump into it, though. I know we've got some over-unders to play. We've got a lucky 7 to go through. Overall, let's get started with this thing. Over-under, NC State rushing yards at 90, Gene. I like the line. I like it a lot. They really, outside of Jalen Samuels, don't have anything. I've got to play under with that defense, right?
And Samuels is a guy, really, I think they're going to try to get more in short passes to get him out in open space. I don't think he's really a guy they're going to pound between the tackles. But here's the thing. Now, I said it that way because I went back and looked at the South Carolina game. They had 89 rushing yards against South Carolina. That's as comparable as you can get. But it does take one rush by Samuels or anybody to get 40, 50 yards on one play, and suddenly that's going to shatter that. But I'm with you. Unless they have one of those long runs that kind of skew this thing, I'm with you. I think just a little bit under 90.
Yeah, I'm going to go slightly under as well, just because we kind of know what NC State is and what they're going to try to do, and that's obviously throw the football. We know their strengths. I'm going to go slightly under as well.
Florida State rushing yards on the other end, 100. Ugh, God, that's a tough line because that front seven's really good. Underperformed maybe a little bit, but they're still really good. I'll play slightly over just because I know Florida State's going to want to try to be balanced, but that's tough.
Man, I don't know because this team is, we've talked about that veteran front seven, and they are fantastic against the run. They got all those guys back. It's hard to judge on that Alabama game. I'm going to go under. I think South Carolina had 31 rushing yards against them, and I know FSU's obviously, but I'll go under. But I think if it's over, that's a very good sign for FSU.
I think my main worry here is that now that you don't have DeAndre Francois, I think the quarterback run is kind of out of your offense. I don't think James Blackman's a guy you're going to run around a whole bunch, which kind of takes away a good chunk of what you think these rushing yards could be. This is really tough for me. I'm going to go slightly over just because I'm hoping we bust a run or two, and really I'm taking the over, slightly over, because I want it to be over. And I think it's a really good sign for Florida State in this football game if they have over 100 rushing yards, because you want to take the pressure off James Blackman throwing the football. So I'll go slightly over.
This next one really intrigues me because NC State's secondary is definitely the weakness of that defense. It's not very good. As good as they are at stopping the run, they are very susceptible to the pass. Meanwhile, you have an accurate guy in James Blackman, or at least we think he's accurate. We've been told he's accurate. He's playing his first ever game, but he's got some talent at wide receiver. 300 passing yards for James Blackman. I like it slightly under that total.
Yeah, like you said, it's the weakness of their defense is that secondary. And the last thing you want to do is put the game on your rookie freshman quarterback to go out there in a game like this. But, I mean, you kind of have to a little bit. But, Jimbo does such a great job managing quarterbacks, and I think he's going to put them in good positions. I look for a lot of throws on first down. You wouldn't expect that, but that's the down. I think, he can get away and have guys open and not have that much pressure. So, man, I've been struggling with this one back and forth. I don't know. I've gotten on the train for James Blackman. I think he's going to be better than people think, just from everything we hear. But again, we don't know when the lights come on, when he steps out there, how he's going to act. From what I've heard in practice and what I've seen as receiver core, I think he goes over. Now, again, I would be surprised one of the year, but I'll go over on this.
Yeah, I'm going to go slightly under here too, just because I think it's somewhere around 275, 280. Until I really see James Blackman in a game, it's tough for me to say that in his first career start he's going to come out and light it up for over 300 yards. Now, I do think it's very possible because, like you said, everything we've heard. But again, that's a tough call for me. I think the line's right at about where it needs to be, so props to you for making it. But, yeah, I'll go slightly under.
All aboard the Derwin James hype train again. 10 tackles for Derwin. I'm playing under on this one.
I'm different on this one, but here's what I'm thinking about. The way NC State, they can't run the football. They're just not going to run effectively. So I think it's going to be a lot of little short. What Finley loves to do, he's a dink and dunk guy. So he's going to put a lot of short, safe passes, and that's going to put the guy out in the open area where Derwin James flourishes. So I think it's going to give him more opportunities to nail, whether it's Samuels, whether it's somebody else out in that short space. So I think it's going to play to his thing. So I'm going over on this one.
I made the egregious mistake of getting too jacked up for that Alabama game and somehow saying Derwin James is going to have over 12 tackles in that football game. I immediately knew that was a mistake. I do agree with everything you're saying, Gene, but I'm going to go slightly under just because 10 tackles, I think that's more of a Matthew Thomas type number. He's obviously the leader in tackles on the team. I'm going to go slightly under.
Defensive sacks, 3. I'm playing over here. I think Florida State, this is where I think Derwin James can get a couple tackles, too, off some safety blitzes. This is where I expect to see a lot of Matthew Thomas as well. I'm going to play over.
It's a tough one because Finley is going to dink and dunk. He's not going to give you a lot of opportunities to go back there and get him. But that being said, the fact that I think they've given up a decent number of sacks already, FSU's defense is obviously better than anything they've seen. So I'm with you, Ryan. I'll go just over that 3.
Same. I'm going just over. I think Florida State's front's just a little too much for them to handle. I'm going to say just over 3.
Keith, Gavin receptions, 5. This is interesting now with a new quarterback.
Yeah.
I'm not going to push it for the sake of us keeping records, but I am going to play slightly under. I think it's around 4.
Well, he busted. He went way over in game 1. Remember that one? I think
he also went way over with an experienced quarterback.
This is true, but that's the thing. We don't know the connection. We don't know that. But, again, I think they're going to have to pass a lot in this game, and he was your leading receiver in the last game. So I'd say go over, so I go over.
This is something that we talked about a little earlier. I'm really curious to see James Blackman's chemistry with the receivers. Is it going to be a tight end target, a double tight end like Maven Saunders and Izzo, or is it going to be a guy like Keith Gavin or Nooney Murray or any of those guys that he has a little bit more chemistry with? Does he have a go-to or does he spread it around? I'm going to go slightly under. I did it against Alabama too. I think I said push against Bama, but I don't know. This one's tough. Like I said, I think I agree with Ryan. I think it's around 4.
Logan Tyler punting average 40 yards under. You burned me, kid. You burned me. And until you prove me wrong, I'm burning you under.
I think this is the game. I think Logan, this is the game where he emerges. And I've been the one going under all the time, and I've been winning for a long time. But I just have a weird feeling he's back.
Do you know something on this?
He's back at home. He's been slighted. He had such a bad game. I think he's going to bounce back.
Have you been given some insider trading on this one? Is it
what that he's punting well in practice? He always punts well in practice. So that would make no difference.
That's fair.
Yeah. I don't know. it's just one of those gut things. I just feeling he's finally going to emerge and punt well. So let's go over.
40 is low. 40 is really low. I'm gonna go just a tad over, just because I felt bad about picking the under for the ULM game, because like we talked about, it was going to be 1 or 2 punts maybe. But I'm going to go
one 8-yard shank, and you're screwed.
And you're screwed. So it's a double-edged sword. But again, I want it to be over 40. I'm going 40.
Butts in seats, 65,000. Over. This is an easy one for me. It's a home opener. It's a conference opener. People haven't seen Florida State play in a month. They're going to be all out here. Give me over.
Yeah, this is actual. I might go under, but we're not going to have anybody unless we assign somebody out there to actually count everybody out. That we have to go with the sold tickets, and I think that will be slightly over 65.
I'll go over as well.
All right. Finally, total points. The Vegas over-under on this game is 51. Ew. Give me the under.
I'm the same way too. But my score pick. You got two really good defenses. You got Florida State trying to work out a new quarterback. I just don't see these two teams lighting it up.
Yeah, I'm on the same type thing. I think Florida State wins, maybe a 27-10, 24-10 type game. I don't see NC State putting up a ton of points against this defense. I'm going under as well.
All right, guys, time for some winners and losers. Let's hit it. It's Lucky 7.
Now you have to ask yourself one question. Do I feel lucky?
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money. I need to feel you, Jerry. Show me the money. Jerry, you better yell. Show me the money.
All right, you know what we do. We take the 7 best games of the week. We pick them against the spread. 7 best, I guess, is subjective on a week like this. But we start with the game for the victory bell. Duke and North Carolina. The last time an undefeated Duke played North Carolina, they went to the Rose Bowl that season.
Wow.
If you want to know how long it's been. This is also the first time the victory bell has been played for in the month of September. So it's an early game for both of those. 2.5. That's how many the Devils are given to UNC. It's tough. I like that quarterback that the Tar Heels have. I really like the quarterback Duke's got too. But I think home crowd difference. Carolina went straight up.
Home crowd, Chapel Hill,
in
really.
a revenge game. Hey, it's Duke, North Carolina, man. In a revenge game from when Duke went into Durham and won last year.
Nah, this one I feel pretty good about the Dukies. I think they're, as usual, they're underrated. They're well coached. Say what you want about Coach Cut. They're playing well. North Carolina's just not good at all. They have a horrible defense. I think they've taken a pretty significant step back from last season, so I like the Dukies in this one.
Yeah, and I want to go ahead and start off by saying last week I was slighted in records. I would like an update in the records at some point whenever we can get to that. However, I'm going to go North Carolina here as well.
What is your record, Drew?
I believe I'm 10-10 by my own records of checking.
Wow.
Which isn't that good, but I just anyways. So I'm gonna go North Carolina, just because Duke didn't look very good against Baylor last week, but North Carolina has a terrible defense. It's at home. To me, this is kind of a coin flip. The fact that Duke is favored by the 2.5, I'll take NC.
The Dogs of Georgia and the Dogs of Klanga, Mississippi State. Starkville coming to Athens to play the Georgia Bulldogs. 5.5. That's how many the Georgia Bulldogs are favored by. I like them outright, and I like them by about 10.
Yeah, I think Mississippi State's got to have, obviously, this crazy blowing LSU out, but I think they're going to come down a little bit from that big game for the Dogs at home. So, yeah, I like the Dogs in this one.
This one is really tough for me. I've been back and forth on it because I wanted to pick Mississippi State last week, but I couldn't because LSU kind of owns them. And it's kind of, it's tough. I'm going to go Georgia just because I'm not going to let myself overreact from one football game against a bad LSU team. So until Mississippi State can really prove it to me, I'll take Georgia.
Florida minus 2.5 at Kentucky at Kroger Field. Florida straight up. Prove me wrong, Kentucky.
Kentucky straight up. They're going to break us. Jeff likes to say the 104-year streak of losing. I don't know. Florida, this is one of the worst Florida teams I've seen in a long time.
And how many times have we said that?
I know, but they've come. It has to end eventually, right? At some point, something's going to break right for Kentucky in this game. I think they're just as good as Florida. They're at home. They're psyched up. Go ahead and I'm going to come back next week and go, what was I thinking? They never beat Florida. But
I hope I'm wrong, Gene. I really do.
To me, it's remarkable how everyone in Gainesville has kind of forgotten about how abysmal that Tennessee game was just because of one Hail Mary throw. I'm going to take Florida just because I'm not going to bet against a 30-year streak, and I really don't know how Kentucky is even going to move the ball. But I'm really tempted to take Kentucky. I hope I'm wrong. I'm going to go ahead and go with Florida.
All right, we got to move through these next three really quick, gentlemen. Notre Dame -4 at Michigan State. Irish win outright.
Sparty all the way.
Yeah, I'm going to go Notre Dame just because I don't really know a ton about either of them, but I'm going to go Notre Dame.
Arkansas and the Aggies are playing at Cowboy Stadium in Arlington, Texas. Arkansas wins because they're wearing those cool cowboy uniforms.
I feel sorry for anybody that has to watch this game. I'll go Suey.
I'm going to go A&M just because I don't really know. This game is so terrible. I'm just going to go A&M.
This next game reeks of one where Vegas knows something I don't know or I'm out of my mind. Georgia Tech's only favored by 7.5 against that terrible Pittsburgh team. I feel so bad for Pat Narduzzi that team isn't any good. But the Jackets are covering this, right? There's no way Pitt covers that 7.5.
I'm with you. Like you said, I would think that line would be a lot higher, and it's not. So, yeah, I mean, I worry when it's like that. But, yeah, I mean, all logic says Georgia Tech should win easily, double digits.
Yeah, I'm going Jackets here, too.
All right, Florida State's given 12.5 to NC State. It's kind of a steep line, in my opinion. But, Gene, your matchup-wise, what really sticks out to you if you had to give a key?
You know, that's the thing. I went back and, NC State obviously has the advantage on defense. Florida State has the advantage on defense, too. I just think overall Florida State has such better athletes. The game is at home. NC State's defense is better, than Florida State's offense, at least when you look at those matchup. Now, Florida State's defense is heads and tails better than anybody. Maybe, they're one of the top 2 or 3 in the country. So from that perspective, and I think Blackman's going to do well in this game because he's had 3 weeks. Jimbo Fisher does a great job managing young quarterbacks, so I like FSU to cover that 12.5.
I think it's around. That's a great line. Just to be different, get the points. I'll take the Pack.
Yeah, I'm going to go Florida State just because, Finley, it's all good and well. I know he's a good quarterback, but I really don't know if he's ever even faced a defense of this caliber. I know Florida State's defense wasn't as good last year. I'm going to take Florida State just because I think they barely cover this spread by somewhere to 14, 17 points.
It's so close, and I have a feeling that I'm either going to be dead on or I'm just going to be completely off there. So, anyway, you heard our picks, ladies and gentlemen. Boss man, thanks as always, sir.
Hey, thanks you, and we'll look forward to seeing everybody out at Madison Social later today for Celebrity Bartending.
Absolutely.
5 o'clock.
Absolutely. Going to see, of course, Mike Martin Jr. is going to be there.
Junior, Kirk Carruthers supposed to be there, and the local celebrity Greg Tisch will be out there bartending as well. And all the tips go to Kids First Fund, so it's a great function and goes to a great cause.
So tip wisely, ladies and gentlemen. We're back in the studio to put a bow on it after this. Wake Up War Chant, 97.9 ESPN Radio.
WarChant.com is the ultimate inside source for FSU football and recruiting. And now you can get in on the action for free for an entire month. WarChant.com is offering a risk-free 30-day trial subscription. Get full access to the #1 website covering the Seminoles just by entering the promo code WarChant30. That's WarChant30. Sign up and get in on the world's most active FSU message boards. Receive breaking news, stories from our award-winning staff, plus get exclusive interviews and videos. Just enter the promo code WarChant30. WarChant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source.
Interesting enough question here to put a bow on it here. Wake Up War Chant 97.9 ESPN Radio. Chris Fowler on Twitter yesterday pointed out that there are 5 unbeaten teams in the Power 5 that are favored in all their remaining games according to FPI. Now, FPI is not my favorite statistic. I'm sure it's not yours either. It's basically brought up to be a talking point by ESPN, and, well, it's worked because that's how we're going to close this show. Here we go. 5 Power 5 teams that, according to FPI, favored to go unbeaten in the rest of their games. Wisconsin, Clemson, Alabama, Oklahoma, Washington. Which one of those teams is most likely to run the table? Which one of those teams is most likely to lose? Now, I'll give you the most likely to win out. It's pretty obvious. It's Alabama. Let's be real here. If you had to rank them, though, who's second most likely? Is it Oklahoma or is it Clemson?
I would probably say, unfortunately for Florida State, I would say it's probably Clemson. they're just a really good football team, and they really have one more hurdle left. I know they'll have a tough game here or there, but I look at Florida State as their toughest test left, and to be honest, we just don't know how that game is going to go. I still think Florida State has a good chance to win that, but it is at home. Florida State does have a true freshman quarterback, and other than that, I really don't see Clemson taking an L on the rest of their schedule. Oklahoma, we already know, has to play Oklahoma State. They had that really good win at Ohio State, but again, until Oklahoma puts together an undefeated season, it's really tough for me to pick them to go undefeated.
And it's also the idea that Oklahoma still got to play West Virginia. Oklahoma still has a Red River rivalry game against Texas. Oklahoma, by the way, we've been wrong for like a month. Oklahoma and Oklahoma State don't play last week of the season. They moved that up. I would imagine in anticipation of probably an Oklahoma State title game. November the 4th is when Bedlam is, and it's in Stillwater. Clemson's toughest game to go is at home against a team without its redshirt sophomore quarterback, and are now currently starting a true freshman. Now, I'll be able to answer that question a little bit more fair. I think we all will after this Saturday when you see James Blackman in action. But for now, I feel like you'd have to stay Clemson. Outside of that, though, least likely, is it Washington or is it Wisconsin? Because this one's a no-brainer for me. It's Washington. Washington hasn't played anybody. Washington hasn't beaten anybody. And you know what? If Washington ends up against SC in that Pac-12 title game, I think SC wipes the floor with them, even if SC has their problems, which, of course, we've stated over the last couple days, and just about everybody else has. Even if USC hasn't figured out all those issues, we saw it last year in Seattle at Husky Stadium. USC just flat out athletes that team, and I just don't see Washington getting through a Pac-12 unscathed.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you on that. I think especially when you look at the state of the Big Ten, and you kind of look at the teams that you thought we're going to be really good and we're going to be there. Now, like we talked about whether or not you can write off Ohio State or not yet as far as national title and playoff hopes go. I said yes, just because I have hated what I've seen from them. Obviously, maybe that's not necessarily the case for everybody. However, Wisconsin is very capable of beating a Michigan team, of beating Ohio State. I'm not even – do they have them on the schedule? Do you have their schedule by any chance? I assume they play.
I think so, because are they in the same division? I know they played last year. They played last year in Madison. I'll find that out for you. But yeah, Wisconsin is just that team that I feel like Wisconsin is Northern Stanford. That's all they are. In that they're really good. They're going to out-physical a lot of people. But when they play a team with athletes and they play a team with talent all over the field, they usually more than likely lose. And by the way, yeah, they draw Michigan, by the way. That'll be that's actually the game before Ohio State for Michigan. That's not an easy draw for the Maize and Blue. But yeah, it's back-to-back weeks. Here's your last 4 weeks for Wisconsin in this season. It's at Indiana, it's Iowa at home, Michigan at home, and at Minnesota. That's a minefield. No, thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I could see that. I could really see them losing any one of those games. I'm not really going to say I could see them losing to Minnesota because we don't really know what they're all about yet. But you already know how Iowa is. You saw what Indiana was able to do to Ohio State for 2.5, 3 quarters. So they could easily give a team like Wisconsin problems. They don't have Ohio State on the schedule, so that's good for them. And honestly, I said that I thought Michigan was going to be a good football team and was going to be there at the end, but Wilton Spade has just looked so shaky, and they've looked just not good. I mean, they were struggling with Air Force at home last week, so I'm not going to really sit there and say that I think Michigan's a top 10 team in the country either. It's obviously too early to tell, but that being said, if you had to choose between Wisconsin, I don't think either of them will run the table, by the way. But if you had to choose between the two, I think you would say that Washington would be less likely.
Final thought before we run, an over-under that Gene didn't play that I will play for us. I'm setting it at 7. Or no, let's set it at 8. Carries for Cam Akers in tomorrow's football game.
I will say over.
Over? How many do you think it is? Because I think it's over 2.
I'll go anywhere from 10 to 12.
I'm with you, and I think you need that. First of all, you need that to get this fan base off the stinking ledge. Good Lord, you'd think he didn't run the ball at all against Alabama. But I want to see just how good he is. I want to see just how good this team is against as that good of a front seven. Because if they can run the ball late, if you make NC State respect the pass enough to where they have to give that passing game, that passing defense a little bit of help, and you can run the ball, then I think you ease a lot of worries about this offense.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I mean, Cam even had 10 carries against Bama, and I'm going to go ahead and say I'm going to go out on a limb here. As good as NC State's front might be, it's not as good as Alabama's. So I do expect him to get more touches. We'll see how that goes. We'll see how Jimbo divvies that out between Jacquez and Cam. And who knows, like we talked about, maybe Amir Rasul will get in there and get some carries. We'll just have to wait and see.
Fun times at the brick house that Bobby built tomorrow. Hope to see you out there. Hope you have fun. But regardless, we're going to be right back here on Monday to break all of it down. My thanks to you, Drew Hicken.
Thank you.
My thanks to you guys for listening. Mike and Mike is up next here on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
Hey, thanks for downloading today's show. If you haven't already, why don't you rate and subscribe us? We certainly do appreciate it, and of course, we appreciate you listening anyway, so just go ahead and click that right there. You know you want to. Come on. Come on. Thanks again for letting us do the show. We love giving you all the football, basketball, baseball, recruiting, all year round. Not just football season, not just spring practice, but hopefully giving you the freshest and newest FSU content every day. Thanks, guys.